Spooky and ASMR. Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I am so happy to see you today. I hope that you are doing well. Today is True Crime ASMR Monday. So, as always, we will be diving in to another true crime case. Today, we will be diving in to the Unsolved Burger Chef Murders. The Burger Chef Murders took place at a Burger Chef restaurant in Speedway, Indiana, U.S. on the night of Friday, November 17th, 1978. Four young employees went missing in what was initially thought to be a petty theft of cash from the restaurant's safe. By Saturday morning, it became clear that it was a case of robbery, kidnapping, and by Sunday, their bodies were discovered. The case was a case of murder. While investigators believe they have identified some or all of the perpetrators, without physical evidence, they have not been able to prosecute those who remain alive. So that is today's case. I will be adding this case to my True Crime ASMR series playlist, and this is where you can find past and future videos in this series. Now let's get into it. Around closing time, between 11 p.m. and midnight on November 17th, 1978, four employees of the Burger Chef restaurant disappeared. Assistant manager, 20-year-old Jane Freed, 16-year-old Daniel Davis, 16-year-old Mark Flemons, and 17-year-old Ruth Ellen Shelton. A fellow employee who came by at midnight to visit the four noticed that the restaurant was empty. The safe was open and the back door was ajar. Police found 2 empty currency bags and an empty roll of adhesive tape next to the open safe. was thought to be a case of petty theft, with the assumption that the pilfered cash had been used by the youths to go partying that night. More than 100 in coins was left in the registers, although the purses and jackets of the missing women had been left at the shop. The theft theory initially seemed most likely, and the scene was cleaned by employees early Saturday morning. Buddy Ellwanger, a Speedway police officer who was eventually assigned to the case, admitted, "We screwed it up from the beginning. Not only was the restaurant cleaned and allowed to be reopened, but no photographs were taken beforehand, effectively eliminating all potential evidence at the crime scene." When the four did not reappear the following morning, and Freed's Chevy Vega was found partially locked in town, concerns grew. It became evident that the youths had been abducted while closing the restaurant for the night, with the attack possibly beginning as they removed trash bags out the back door. On Sunday afternoon, hikers found the bodies of all four youths. They found the bodies over 20 miles away in a wooded area of Johnson County. Both Davis and Shelton had been shot numerous times with a .38 caliber firearm. Freed had been stabbed twice in the chest. The handle of the knife had been broken off and was missing. The blade was later recovered during an autopsy. Flemons was later determined to have been bludgeoned, possibly with a chain, and died from choking to death on his own blood. All four victims were still wearing their Burger Chef uniforms. Money and watches were found on the victims, implying that the robbery might not have been the sole motive for the murders. The leading theory of investigators has been that the four victims were kidnapped during a botched robbery, possibly after one of the victims recognized one of the perpetrators. Flemons was covering for another employee shift and was not scheduled to work that night, leading investigators to speculate that perhaps he was the one who recognized the killers, since they had not planned on him being just before closing. Both men were white and in their 30s. One man had a beard, the other was clean-shaven with light-colored hair. The police had models of the suspects created in clay to assist the investigation. Later, in 1978, a man in a bar in Greenwood bragged that he had been involved in the killings. Police subsequently questioned him, but he passed a polygraph, claiming not to have been involved. Officers were unable to bring charges on other grounds. The man provided the names of others who he suggested belonged to a fast food robbery gang, who investigators suspected may have been involved in the case. While following up on these leads in Franklin, officers spotted a man who bore a strong resemblance to the bearded man composite. He was summoned for a lineup, and the man shaved his beard, which he had had for the previous 5 years. The night before he was supposed to appear for the lineup, a neighbor of his who had not been spotted by the original witness, but who had been named by the Greenwood suspect, subsequently went to prison for armed robbery. Another associate named by the Greenwood suspect, who fit the description of the fair-haired man, also subsequently was imprisoned for other armed robberies of fast food restaurants. However, without confessions, despite offers of plea deals to any suspects not directly responsible for the killings, and without direct physical evidence of the involvement of the suspects in the murders, the police were not able to make arrests. At the time, there was some speculation that the murders were tied to other crimes that had shocked the town over the preceding months, such as the murder of Julia Cyphers and the Speedway bombings. At the time, the perpetrator of the bombings was still on the loose. However, these cases were subsequently found to be unconnected to the Burger Chef Murders. Investigators continued to follow leads relating to possible suspects as widely as Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Dallas. suspect and the bearded suspect from an apparent suicide and a heart attack, respectively, came suspiciously close after the release of the armed robber named by the Greenwood suspect. In 1984, Detective Mel Wilsey of the Marion County Sheriff's Department received a call from Donald Forrester. He was an inmate at the Pendleton Correctional Facility. Forrester claimed to have been involved in the murders and was willing to confess in order to avoid his scheduled transfer to a notoriously violent state prison. Wilsey received a court order to bring Forrester to Marion County, where he confessed to shooting Davis and Shelton. He then led police to the crime scene in the woods, where he accurately described the location and position of the bodies when they were found. He also knew about the broken handle of the knife, which was not widely publicized. According to Forrester, Freed's brother James owed money on a drug deal, so he and 3 other associates had gone to the restaurant to threaten her. But when Flemons intervened to protect Freed, a fight broke out. as well as family and friends of the victims, raised money to plant 4 red oak trees to honor the victims. Each tree is adorned with a plaque with a short biography of each victim. The original monetary goal was surpassed within 24 hours. With the extra funds, a marble bench was installed and dedicated to their family and friends. On November 10th, 2018, 1 week before the 40th anniversary, a small dedication ceremony for family and friends was held at the memorial site at Leonard Park and Speedway. The Burger Chef Murders remain one of Indiana's most notorious and confounding unsolved crimes. I think about it often. I dream about it sometimes. Retired Indiana State Police Sergeant Stoney Vaughn has said, "This is the type of case that I will take to my grave." Alright, so that is today's case. I think that this is one of